you should be able to see this now. Last time we finished with the text and lists and stuff, so let's start with spawning like waves of enemies. Let's see if we can do that. So I'm gonna do we have a game controller already? We have a breakout and Pong game controller, but not a regular one. Oh yeah, we do. Open that up real quick. There's a few different ways you can do this one.
Quick question.
What's up?
Sorry, I don't know. I noticed. I was looking up some tutorials on everything, and I noticed they didn't use a game controller, but rather a game manager.
They can just call it whatever they want. It's the same thing.
Okay.
It's just a script that'll just keep control of what happens in the game. Just keep track of what's happening and do stuff automatically. Like, our game controller is just going to spawn enemies after a certain amount of time. And it's going to have like a cooldown, and then it'll keep spawning more enemies as time goes on. Let me do that then. So first I'm going to get rid of this thing, because we don't need to make it a singleton. We just need it in one scene. So we have our enemies. Let's just do that one for now. So we just need our enemy array. Make a couple more values in here. I'm going to do public float time between spawns. Call it spawn cools. So say we have like every 5 seconds you spawn an enemy. We want this value to be set to this once we spawn the enemy, so that it keeps on resetting, so it doesn't spawn infinite enemies basically. But let's see, I'm gonna make a function forward spawn enemy. So when we spawn enemy, we're gonna grab randomly from this array, and then we're gonna set this value to equal this. Do instantiate. If you want to get a random value from this array, we're going to do random.range from 0 to enemy array dot length. Now the position is what is going to be a problem. So I'm just spawn it at 0, 0 first. Close that one and close that one. Oh. Enemy array, open bracket and close bracket. Sorry. So we're going to spawn an enemy, and it has to be between the first index of that array and the last index of that array. I'm going to spawn it at 0, 0, 0 and spawn it with its original rotation. It's supposed to be just one. Open. Yeah, that's good. Cool. And we're going to reset our spawn cools to time between spawns. Let's see. If we don't want enemies to spawn at the beginning, we'll set this at the beginning. I'm also going to say if spawn cools is greater than 0, then we're going to decrement it until it's 0. We're going to say if it is less than 0, we're going to spawn an enemy. This should work immediately. Let's hope it works. Might take a minute to load. Good. So let's see. Game controller. We don't need our money anymore. So I'll get rid of that. There we go. So enemy array has nothing right now, so we need to add enemies to it. So I'm gonna go and make prefab of our squid. I can delete him from the scene. I can delete the projectile too. And then in the game controller, I can just drag in a squid. I can put the time between spawns as like 3 or something. Actually, let's make this. Did we set the enemy to always be chasing the player? I think we did. Test enemy. Yep, so always move towards player. Cool. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it breaks. So 3 seconds. And it'll keep spawning. We can't really attack yet, so yeah. We can click on, but we can't really shoot anything, but that's fine. So we can spawn them at the middle position, but usually if you're spawning enemies, you want to spawn them somewhere off screen. So that takes a little bit of work. So let's do that real quick. Let me see how I did it. I know I had to check for the camera bounds. Oh, wrong script. Game controller. We did vector 2 bounds or something. Bounds equals camera.main dot screen to world point dot width screen dot height 0f. Vector 2 bounds equals that. Oh. Your vector 3, screen dot width, screen dot height, 0. Okay, so this basically is gonna convert once it loads the screen point of our camera. Main camera. Yeah. So the camera's this big. So it's gonna say, okay, so we're gonna get the width from here to here and the height from here to here. And we wanna check and spawn an enemy, let's say above that. So we're gonna spawn somewhere between 0 and the width of the screen, and we're gonna spawn the height plus some random range. So we don't spawn them on the screen. We don't want to spawn them right at the tip because their sprite will so be kind of hanging over. Like if the sprite's this big, then if it spawns here, it'll still be clipping through. So we'll just add some random value to that too. So we're gonna go something like, let's see. Let's do it this way. Let's do vector 3 spawn point equals new vector 3. And we're gonna do some random x value. So negative bound dot x plus 1f bounds dot x minus 1f. So somewhere a little bit off from the top left and somewhere a little bit off from the top right. And we're gonna do bounds.y, so the very top of the screen, plus some random amount. So like 0.25f to like 3f or something. And then 0f. I think that's right. And then instead of this, we can just pass in spawn point. Hopefully that just works immediately. So we're going to get a spawn point between the left bound, left part of the screen, the right part of the screen, and somewhere up top. Let's see if it actually does anything. Yep, somewhere above us. This way, actually. Kind of see that they're above. So if I go down here, I was doing this for the space shooter, and in the space shooter you can't move down. You can only move left or right. So I wouldn't have to change the bounds up top. It's always the same. But we can just do this when we spawn the enemy. We can just change the bounds every time we spawn an enemy. That way it should update if we move. Let's see. So I'm gonna look down here. So it should spawn somewhere up at this little part. Yep, then it spawns up there in the corner, up there in the middle. Cool, that works. And if you have like an action game like this, you want them to spawn from all around you, you could just do like an if statement. I'm gonna put a comment up here and say spawns above player for this one. I'm gonna save this to a value spawn point, and I can just say the spawn point equals this thing. If I don't want this one, I can use something like int equals random.range from 0 to 3 or something. 0, 1, 2, 3. It's exclusive on the last one, so I'm going to put 4. So it goes 0, 1, 2, or 3 for these values. And then we would just say something like if x is equal to 0, then we're going to do this one. Else if x is equal to 1, do something else. We could just copy this in. So if it equals 2, else if it equals 3. So we can do something like, how did I spawn below? I think it would just be negative bounds.y minus some random range response to the right of the player to the left of the player. This one is, let's see, instead of random range on this one, we would just spawn at the bound. So we would just go bounds.x plus random.range 0.25 to like 3f or something, f. And if you want to change these values to be within some random range, you would just make a value up here, just like public float x range equals 0.25. Let's do x range low, x range high. And you would just put these values in here instead. The random range one. X range low or X range high. And then you can just tweak these values in the inspector and it should still work. So I'm going to tweak this one, and instead we're going to do some random dot range from, let's see, negative bounds dot y plus 1f bounds dot y minus 1f. Let's see if this one works. I'm gonna paste this. Delete that comment. I'm gonna do negative bounds minus. It should spawn this automatically. I just realized I didn't push to the GitHub for this stuff. I'll try to do that after if I remember. So if any of you guys don't keep up with any of this and don't want to, look at the entire video, you can just look at the script real quick and say, oh, I missed this part. Cool. So let's see if I have to change it in the inspector at all. The X range, 25 to 3. Should be good. Hopefully it spawns off screen now. Let's see if it does. So above the player, to the right of the player, the right of the player, on to the right a lot. Above, left, there we go. Below, yep, so it all works. Spawns around the player. So let's just get the camera bounds and push them somewhere off screen and spawn them there instead. Yeah, works out pretty well. Let's see, wave spawning. And if we add different enemies to this list, then it'll just spawn a random enemy. So if we make like a red squid or something, just change the sprite. Oh, that's not gonna work. What can I change it to make it a different color? It's not one of those. You can have like an Enderman squid, some shit. Drag it in there. Then I'll add this to the game controller. So if it's in there, then it should grab randomly. Yep, so it grabs that one. Now this one's green. Because the player's dead, they're not moving toward the player, but this guy's still shooting at it for some reason. But yeah, you can just add however many enemies to this list that you want, and it'll still grab a random one. If you want to get more complex with it, like you want to add different enemies to a list as you go on, like, oh, you start with this one, but then at like the third wave you get this one, you can just use a list instead of an array, and have the array just keep track of all the enemies, and then just grab a random enemy from the array and save it to the list as you go along in each progressive wave. Which I'm probably I might do that for the tower defense game. Haven't decided yet. I'm gonna try to let's just stand here for my schedule. I'm probably gonna try to start either the tower defense or the shoot 'em up on next week, next Tuesday. Probably the shoot 'em up because that's the easiest one to do. We already know how to spawn enemies, you know how to shoot straight up, we know how to aim at the mouse and stuff, so that should be most of what you need for the game anyway. Just gotta set some more UI up, and the game controllers keep track of if the player's dead or not to show the UI and stuff like that. But one thing I was gonna do was show how to do iframes. Like if your player gets hit, he can't get hit again for like half a second or something. It's useful for if you have like whatchamacallit, enemies that do melee damage, and if they hit you and they're up close, then if the collider's still hitting them, they might like take massive damage at once. Like even if it says on collision enter and you take 1 damage, it might register more than 1 on collision enter and make them take like 20 damage at the same time. That would be annoying. So I'm gonna go to the player controller, and I'm gonna go like qbilk public float iframes equals 0.3f or something. Do iframe time equals 3 seconds. I'm gonna make a float called iframes. You can also for the enemy wave spawning, you can use coroutines, but I don't like coroutines that much because you have to keep track of if they're actually started or not, and if you have to update it, you have to update them and stuff like that. Let me see if I can do it real quick. Enumerator enemy wave or something. Maybe something like this. No, 1F. Like setting it up and getting it to work right is more troublesome, in my opinion. So I just like doing a float and then just reduce that float every second, and then when it's 0, then do something. So it's like my own little coroutine, and I can keep track of what is going on easier that way for me. But you guys can use coroutine if you guys like them better. Let me comment that out. Somebody needs to see it later, but yeah, so coroutines work too if you guys want to do that. So iframe time equals 0.3 seconds. So after I get hit, there's going to be 0.3 seconds before I can get hurt again. We're going to keep track of it with, this is our current iframes. So if it's less than 0, then we can take damage. So I'm going to go down here and go if iframes is less than or equal to 0. Oh wait, sorry. Iframes is greater than 0. Give me a minute. And then when we take damage, I'm going to change this so we actually take damage. Take damage 1. Yeah, I mean we take damage. So when we take damage, I want to say if iframes is less than or equal to 0, then we can take damage. If we still have iframes, we don't take any damage. And then at the end of taking damage, we're going to do iframes equals iframe time. So it should work automatically. Let me spawn like 6 dudes in to see if I'm going to take damage all at once or not. I'm going to control D to just spawn a bunch from over here. Let's make that bigger time so we can actually see it. Let's see. 1 second for iframes. Let's do that. Yep, so he's not taking damage for like a full second, even though there's like 8 bullets hitting him at once. So you can just tweak this to what you think is right, but also fixes the problem we had last time where was it? Enemy projectile. Where we had to do this because it was registering the collision more than once. So this should actually be fixed when we do the iframes too. But I'll keep it anyway just in case. So iframes and wave spawning. I was also gonna go over how to pause the game. Now, the easiest way to do it is to go in the game controller. You can set up a button or something to do this, but I'm just gonna make a public function and call that when I push a button. So I'll make a bool. Paused equals false. And if we push like P or something, if input dot get key down, keycode dot P, pause. So we push P, we're gonna pause the game, and we're gonna do that by just saying paused equals not paused. And we can do it this way. If you're paused, then you're gonna unpause it. And we're gonna freeze the game. Time.timescale equals 0f. Else so if we're paused, we're gonna unpause it, and we're gonna flip those. We're gonna unpause it, and we're gonna resume the game. If we are not paused, we're gonna set timescale to 0, and we're gonna set pause to true. And we can once again do this by doing public cubic, of course. Every single time I type that. Public game object, pause UI, UIL. Good typing. Pause UI. So we'll do pause UI dot set active to false if we're not paused, and true if we are paused. I'll put this up there. I don't know if it matters. And then I'm gonna make a simple UI for it. I'm gonna add an image. I'm gonna Shift Alt, click on the bottom right one so it fills the whole screen. You can't see it because we're in the scene, but if you click on game, it'll show the whole screen. And we're gonna just dim it down and make it red. That'll look like that. I'm gonna add text to it. Do it like 100. Oh, sorry, didn't click. 100. Make it like 40-point font. I'm gonna say paused, bold, and like I don't know, some color. Maybe black would be best. Black looks alright. I'm gonna duplicate it. I'm gonna drop it down to like 50, 25. Press P to resume. And then I'm gonna just name this pause UI. If I drag it into the enemy, or sorry, game controller, then I can just push, oh shoot, sorry, disable it first, so the game's not paused at the beginning. And then P, so everything freezes in the game, no bullets are moving or anything, even my look around. My player's not looking around anymore because the speed is 0. Yeah, easy pause. You can attach it to a button. Like you could just go down here and which one is this? Preset data? No. Load level. Okay, that one I'm gonna do like 250, 300. Let's label this one pause. If we want it to do anything, we can just click on the button, go down to runtime only. It should grab from the game controller instead, so we drag that in. And then we go to game controller and the pause function. We can click on it again. Also, if your UI doesn't work for a button when you're doing something, like if this doesn't work, it might be because this is underneath another part of the UI. Okay, I can't click on it now. But if it's under it, then it should show up on top of everything else. And then it should do like that. So in case your UI doesn't work, you might have to check the which one's parented first. Because it draws this one, then this, all the way down the list. And this is drawn last, so it shows up on top of everything else. So yeah, simple pausing. Let's see, I'm going to delete my squids. Let's move on over there. I get this error all the time because of my windows are too small or something, but just ignore that. Let's see. I was going to show some particles too. See if I can do that real quick. So I right click on my player, I'm going to do effects and particle system. And you can program these in to do it when certain things happen. Like when an enemy or player takes damage, you can like spawn particles for like blood or something. But I'm going to just do it where my player walks and he has like a little trail fall behind him. This menu is a lot at first, but don't worry about that. I'll go over the important parts of that. I'm going to zoom out in this one. So duration is ignore that. Looping, we're going to have it loop. Prewarm doesn't matter. Prewarm just says basically other particles going to be spawned in already. Like if you're doing particles for like a waterfall, you want them to be pre-warmed because you don't want the waterfall to just spawn out of nowhere, basically. Delay, none. Lifetime, let's do it like 1, so that's how long the particles live. The delay is how long until they start spawning like this. Start speed is how fast they move, obviously. I'm going to make a random. I'm going to do it like... they're going to fall behind the player, so I guess they can just be like 0. You just kind of stay there. Lifetime, I'm going to make the lifetime random though. I'm going to make it between like 0.25 and 0.65 seconds or something like that. Start size, random, make it like 0.1 to like 0.5. That's how big they spawn. Like 0.25 or something. The rotation I'm gonna ignore. The start color I'm gonna, I think, ignore. Let's see. Gravity, no. Okay, I'm gonna change simulation space from local to world so that it spawns in the world instead of attached to the player, because if we're rotating, then our particles will rotate with the player if we're on local mode. So world mode is probably better for a lot of cases. Plan awake, yeah. Velocity, ignore those. I'm gonna click on emission. I'm gonna change over time at the end. I'm gonna put just like 3 or something over distance. So as my player is moving, he's gonna spawn more particles around. You'll see how a lot of them are spawning all at once now when I'm moving it fast. So the shape, well, you can do bursts too. So like every so many seconds, this mini spawn. If I didn't just click on that, that'd be great. There we go. A few different cases for that one, but I'm not going to go into that. So shape, I'm going to keep the shape as a cone. You can change how it spawns. You can spawn it out of an edge, like beneath the player or something. Well, maybe I do want that. Like I'll spawn it underneath the player or something. 0.5, 4.5. I'm gonna just move this down. 0.5. I don't know, something like that. Whatever, it's fine. I'll leave that the same, so it's just gonna spawn randomly on this little line. And I'm gonna do something with color over time. So I'm gonna check that box, and it lets you change the color over time. So over time I want it to just fade away. So the simplest way to do that is you just click up here. So it starts with alpha 255, and then you click here, and at the end you're gonna make it disappear. So it'll start to fade away as its life goes on. And I have all these different ones for like blood and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm just gonna change this one. And then you can save it by clicking on the new little tab there. So if you lose it, or when I do two different objects, you can just click the preset that you make. I'll blend them, I'll leave like that. Then let's do size over lifetime too. So I want them to shrink as they go out, like little dust particles. So I'm gonna click on the little thing, and it'll give me a little graph that looks awful like that. There we go. And I'm gonna pick just one of the presets. I'll pick like this one. So it starts with size 1, and at the end it's size 0. Maybe this one's better. I like this one better. You can make your own if you want to like click and add little keys. Then you can like drag, or like rotate it. I could do weird stuff, but I'm gonna leave it at that one for now. Drag that down so it's not blocking the whole screen again. I think that's all I wanted to do for now. It is a trail, so that doesn't really matter. But you can make it do collisions, stuff like that. I wanted to do like a flamethrower with it in another game, but I haven't gotten around to testing it with these collisions yet, because this is a kind of recent thing. I think they put it in like a year or a year and a half ago or something for the collisions with it, but haven't checked on how it works yet. So then I'm just gonna change the renderer. Let's see. I want to draw it below the player, so I'm going to put like -1. So it draws below the player. And I'm going to change the emission to 0 on here, so it's only spawning when he's moving. And I'll save it. And then let's see if it does anything. Yep. So as he's walking, those little particles below him. And I'm dead. Maybe I should show how to use particles for blood. That'd be a good example, I think. Let me see, which one did I did it for? Did I do it for the... I think I did it for one of the other games for this class. Let me look for just a second. I know I spawned explosion things when they died. Platformer maybe? One second. It's a good time for questions if anyone has any. Okay, let's just freeball this. So I want to spawn it somehow. Let's make the blood particles first. Let's see. So I'm going to change the start speed to like between 1 and 2 or something. I'm going to change the emission, or sorry, the shape, so it's in like a circle. Oh, that's weird. So it's supposed to be from 2 to from 1 to 3 to 4 or something. I know I can spawn particles, I think, in code. So that should be good. I just want to make them red. So I'm going to go to color over lifetime. I'm going to make it red and fade. And size over lifetime, I'm going to also make it kind of pop. I'm going to change the lifetime to be like between 0.5 and 2 maybe? I don't even know. Looks a little bloody. Bloody enough. Render, I want to draw on top of things. I'm just going to put it as 1 or something in the ordering layer. Also just change the sorting layer and add that, but that's... We're not going to do anything too complicated. I'm just going to rename it butt particles. So looks like spawning 100-ish might be good. So I'll set it to 0. Say this is a prefab. Actually, why not just attach to the player? Let's do that. It is a prefab already, so I'll just drag it onto the player anyway. And it's going to be at 0, 0, 0. And then let's go to the player controller. Public particle system. Blood particles. So when I take damage, I'm just going to spawn some blood particles. So I'm going to do down here particles dot you spawn. Do you emit? Maybe emit 100. I think that works. So you just emit 100 particles. The only problem with doing it this way is when the player dies and it deactivates, the particles are going to deactivate too. Oh, haven't set it yet. Did I make it public? Test player. Yes, so I'm going to go to the prefab for the player. Drag in blood particles right there. Should have all the references we need. I think we're good. Oh, it just keeps spawning. Okay. Does that work maybe? Let's see. Hopefully it works. First we're going to change this to world space. That was an easy way to do it. I just don't want to do it that way. Let's see. You can pause the particle system apparently. Let's see. Stops playing using the supplied stop behavior. Pause. Let's see if that works any better. Oh. It's good. Let's do it this way then. Wish I knew what I did it for so I could just look at it and see how I did it last time. Explosion, flash, no. Oh, I know where I did it last time. Give me 1 second. Load up the script right now. Let's see. Controller. It was parts. Let's see. Maybe that's why. Maybe because it's on play on awake. I don't want it to play on awake. Dot emit this position. There's nothing for the particles themselves to do, right? Don't play on awake. And should just call this once. Let's see. Particles.emit. I'm gonna change this to a little bit. I'm gonna do int burst amount. Just paste that into that so we only spawn a certain amount of particles, and we could just modify it in the inspector. Make it 100. Let's see what happens. Maybe it is doing it right. Here I'm just taking too much damage. Oh yeah. Cool, so it does work. I'm just getting hit every 2 seconds and not getting good. Cool. We just make this faster or slower, or whatever we want, but it works. We have the little flash animation for the enemies when they get hurt, but we can add the particles to that too if we wanted. We just do the same thing. We would just do particles.emit and get a reference to the particle system we want to emit from. Just child it to it or whatever. That one should be good. I guess I can start doing the 3D thing probably. That shouldn't take too long, and I can just expand on it next time. Let's do that for a little bit. So I'm gonna make a new scene. Call this 3D. Open it up. Let's change this camera to perspective. We're going to change both of these to not 2D. I'm going to spawn ground first to walk on. So I'm going to do 3D object plane. Make it like 50 by 1 by 50. So it's this giant plane. And I'm going to make a new folder called materials. This is just black right now. So you add a material to it for actually to look like anything. I think all 3D models have to have a material on them for them to actually render right. I'm going to call this floor. Drag it on. I can just change the color in here. And the other problem we have is there's no lighting in this, and 3D scenes have to have lighting. So we're going to go right click, we're going to go light. There's always different types of lights. Direction just points in a direction, and you can do it that way. Just let's do like 0, 100, 0. So it's like a sun, basically. It's just going to light up the entire field. Which we don't want this to be. That's fine, whatever. We can change in the light how like intense it is. Do like 0.5, 0.75 or something like that. We can add shadows or not. We can do backlighting or real-time lighting. That's more complex stuff. For now, I'll just have the basic lighting. I'm going to add a 3D object. I'm going to add a sphere. This is zeroed out. It's not zeroed out. I'm going to put the plane at 0, -1, 0. So whatever I spawn should be above the plane by default. So if I zero out the player, it's still going to be above the plane on the ground. So I'm going to change the camera position to be looking down at the ball. So to do that, I'm going to change my camera view till I like it. Say it's something like that. I'm going to click on the camera. I'm going to go to window, or sorry, game object. I'll go down to align with view. And it should automatically aim the camera right where I'm lined up to. And now it's looking straight down at the player. The easiest way to do it. You don't want to have to position the camera 80 different times and try to like get the right angle on it. You just want to change your angle on your view and then assign the camera immediately to that. So let's see, field of view. I'm just gonna not mess with that. Get some good FOV in there. I'm gonna make a material for the player just so I can tell what the player is. Drag it onto the player. And I'm gonna make it like a lightish bluish, maybe. I don't know. I can change the rendering mode. I can change the shader type actually. If I want to too. I want it to look like metal, but I don't think I can get it just by messing. Oh, maybe. It kind of works. Just tweak it, and you can see on the bottom here what the preview looks like. That'll be fine. And it's still above, right? It's still above ground. Yeah, it's barely above ground. Cool. It's fine then. And if we go to the player, I name it player so we know what it is. We're gonna add a rigid body to it. And if you make a 3D object, all these should default to having some kind of collider to them. In this case, it has a mesh, a sphere mesh filter and a mesh renderer. And here's the actual collider that it comes with, and it just knows that it's a sphere, so it's gonna just draw it around like that. So that's fine. And if we scale it, it'll automatically change the size and radius and stuff on this. So if we play it, the ball should just fall down. Yep. And so we're gonna make a new script. I'm gonna do roll a ball player. I named this 3D in my test one, like 3D player controller, and you can't name something with a number in front, so I couldn't name it that. So just a heads up. Whole ball player. I'm gonna start by doing public float speed, vector to input, rigid body reference. Not 2D, just regular rigid body this time because it's 3D. Void wake bod equals get component rigid body. I'm gonna do void update. So we're gonna save the input again. Input equals new vector 2 input dot get axis. Horizontal and vertical. So this time, if we push left or right, Then we're going to push it left or right, so that's pretty much the same. Dot.add force. We're going to do vector 2.right times speed times input.x times delta time. But this time, if we're doing up or down, the y-axis is literally up in the air, and you don't want to use the y-axis unless you're jumping, but you're using the z-axis this time. So if pushing up or down arrows, we're going to move up or down on the z-axis instead. And you can do that by doing, let me change this vector 3 dot right, vector 3 dot forward. So that does, yeah, shorthand for writing vector 3 0 0 1. So 0 on x, 0 on y, 1 on the z, times input dot y, times time delta time. So this should move the player up, down, left, or right. Let's see if it does. So we're gonna change the drag a little bit to like 5 or something. We're gonna change speed once we add the player controller, once we add the rollerball player to it. Like 150, I don't know how fast it could be fast. So not fast enough. So we'll do like 500 or something. So left or right, down or up, like 5,000. Better. Maybe a little too fast, but yeah, so basic rolling ball around. 1250 might be a good number. 1250 is usually a good number that I like to do for a lot of movement stuff. Cool. And then I'm going to change the camera so that it follows the player. In our camera controller, we already grab... Oh no, we make it public. Okay, cool. So I can just drag this camera controller to... I'm sure we can't because it does that. Because it lerps to the position.x, position.y, and -10. So we can't do it that way. So I'm going to make another one. Camera. Let's do rollball camera. Rollball camera. I'm going to copy this though. What did I do on this one? Let's see. Oh. Let's see. Mobile camera. So I'm going to get the target the same way, but I'm not going to do it this way. It has to change a little bit. Oh, sorry. Vector 3 start position. My bad. So start position equals transform dot position. Let's see. So I wanted to keep it start position, but move along with the player. Let's see. So can I do it just by position to new position? So let's do start position dot x plus position dot x, start position dot y plus that. This might not work at first. I'm not sure if it will, but let's see if it does anything. So I want it to just look at the player, and if it moves around, it'll just follow the player. This will keep track of its start position, and it should keep its start position, like keep the same distance from the player when it starts, but I don't know if it'll work right off the bat. Let's see. Rollball camera, like 15, and let's drag on the player as the target. See if it does anything. Oh, it's... Oh, did I not save the movement stuff? Yeah, that's the move stuff. 1250. And let's do that at like 8 or something. Okay. So it's working. Kind of just half-assed that, but it's working. Cool. Let's add some walls so I can actually see if we're doing it right. I'm gonna make a cube. I'm gonna drag it over. I'm gonna scale it up. Duplicate it. Drag it over that way. I'm gonna rotate this one. And it looks... it's not great, but at least you can tell where you're moving. Yep, so we are in fact moving and the camera is following us. Cool. I don't have any 3D models that I can throw in here to like make it look better with like pickups, but I'll do that next time probably. That's fine. I might have coins actually somewhere from Blender. I don't know if they still exist on here. What does coin.blend look like? Let's see. Is it an ugly coin? Oh, it's the render scene. Okay. So it's not by itself. I have a blend file. Is that gonna work? Let me make a new folder. Models. Drag in the blend file. Oh, so I do have a coin. It has no texture on it, but it's a coin. So I can do that next time for having pickups, whatever on it. I'm just gonna pretty this up by adding a material to it and see if it looks nice. I don't know if it will. I've touched 3D stuff like 3 times in my life, so materials are not loaded on there for some reason. They gotta change it in the mesh renderer apparently. It's like 0.75, 0.75, 0.75. Once I make sure it's actually gonna be on the ground. I need a sphere collider, trigger. Oh, I already have a coin. I'm just gonna prefab this so I don't forget it next time. Cool. So I'm gonna stop there for today though. Do I have any questions about anything? I know most of you aren't doing 3D stuff, but I figure I might as well show this anyway. And I have to have more topics sometime. So I have harder topics, but I don't want to get into them yet. I gotta plan them beforehand a little bit. And I think next Thursday is gonna be just check on you guys' progress for different things. Make sure you guys see if you guys need help in anything at all. But Tuesday I'm probably gonna continue this and start the shoot 'em up probably. So if you guys want to see that, then you can show up. But yeah, I'm gonna hang out for 5 more minutes, but that's all for today.
Thank you.
No problem.